Look, as a copywriter trying to get more clients and trying to make more money, a lot of people focus on outreach, but let me hit you with a hard truth. Outreach is literally useless if you do not know how to close on sales calls. It's so surprising to me how time and time again, copywriters focus so much on outreach and they outreach until they're blue in the face, and then they finally get their first couple of sales calls and they're literally 5 yards away from touchdown and they blow it every single time. They fumble the ball every single time. Well, no more, because in this video, I'm going to completely solve that problem for everybody watching. I'll be giving you everything you need to prepare for your first or next sales call, and I'm going to be providing with you my exact scripts, templates, and formulas to close 90% of the sales calls that you ever get on. Here, let me give you a scenario that will shed light on everything as a copywriter. So let's say you want to have the nicest home, okay? Your dream is to own the nicest dream home that you can really imagine. What would you start with? Would you start by trying to pick out the perfect carpet, or maybe pick out the materials from the drapes? Like, maybe I want Egyptian cotton, or maybe I want polyester, when all you have is a big hole in the ground. All you have is one big piece of dirt. You don't even have the foundation of your house poured yet. What would you focus on? You see, a lot of the times people focus on the sales tactics. They focus on, well, I need to get the best script and I need to practice these objection handles, when in reality, those things are not the most important, okay? If you've never gotten on a real actual sales call before, I'm telling you first and foremost right now that you want to focus on the fundamentals, because the fundamentals is what's gonna get you from 0 out of 10 to 9 out of 10. All the scripts and the actual objection handles themselves, all the things that you can memorize, the really, really small things, are only to take you from maybe 8 to 9 or 9 to 10. So instead of focusing on all the sexy stuff, right? All the stuff that really just gives you that hit of dopamine, I want to first give you all of the sales principles that are going to take you from 0 out of 10 to 9 out of 10. And I've got to say, the number one thing that most people need to know going into a sales call is that you are your biggest enemy. You're probably the only one that's going to mess it up, because let's be honest, they're not getting on a sales call with you just to chit chat. They're just not, okay? They want to get on a sales call so that you can sell them. They want to be sold. And 9 times out of 10, most copywriters get on this sales call and they're stuttering, they're stammering. They have no idea what their offer is. They don't know what to say. They say, well, I don't know. They get asked the hard questions and they just freeze and have no idea what to do. And I know this very well firsthand. I'll tell you a little story about my first sales call, because my first sales call was simply for a sales page. I was trying to sell a sales page and I did the unthinkable. I created a whole PowerPoint presentation slideshow on why sales pages are important, why he should choose me, why I'm so great at making sales pages, how much money I can make him. And long story short, I was sitting there presenting in front of him, super nervous, and I was only gonna ask him for like $300, okay? So I was mad nervous over a $300 ask on a sales page. I over-prepared and I was basically just scared out of my mind. The biggest lesson here that I want you guys to actually take away from this is to just get out of your own way. Calm down, don't get nervous, and don't get flustered, okay? The mindset that you want to have when going on to this sales call is that this person actually needs you. You're helping them. You are only getting on this sales call to see if you can help them, not to make the sale. You guys need to know that this is not a job interview, okay? It's not where you show up and then they ask you about your past experience, or then they ask you, what are your 3 biggest weaknesses? Like, they don't be asking you those questions. All it really comes down to is getting their situation, seeing if you can help them, and then trying to work out a deal. That's really it. It doesn't have to be high pressure. It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to memorize all these scripts and all these calls, even though I'm going to give you a script to kind of go off of. But it's really not as difficult as most people think. And so that really covers the meat and potatoes, but there is still a whole bunch of other fundamentals that you guys need to know when going into a sales call. And the first one that I want to give to you is the difference between an obstacle and an objection. So what is an objection? An objection essentially is them replying to your offer with an excuse or a reason as to why they don't want to move on or they shouldn't move on right now. This can be something as simple as, well, I actually don't know if this is going to work for me, or I don't know if you and I are going to be a great fit together. Whereas an obstacle is simply something like, oh, well, I can't come up with the money right now. I don't have access to the cash right now, or I physically cannot make a decision right now. I need to actually go talk to the decision maker first. Now, the reason why this small difference is so important is because a lot of the times people get into selling selling situations and they haven't cleared up all the obstacles yet. So once upon a time, I myself actually hopped on a sales call, but I wasn't the seller. I was actually the potential buyer, okay? And the salesman was talking to me and we worked out some numbers, right? We talked about his program and what he was doing. And then he asked me, is there any reason as to why you wouldn't want to move forward today? Before he revealed the price, before he tried to sell me, before any of that. And I said, well, I actually want to do some other things. I want to run some ads first. I want to get some numbers. I'm not actually ready to start right now, but I wanted to get on the call to see what you guys had to offer. And then just like that, as easy as that, he said, okay, no problem. And we hopped off the call. Now let's for a minute actually pretend like he didn't say that. Pretend like he just went in, right? He got my situation and then he just tried to sell me. Okay. Now I have to sit there and tell him, well, I'm not actually ready to go yet. I'm not actually ready to start in the program yet. And he's going to be over here trying to objection handle me and hard sell me and do all this other stuff that he just doesn't need to do. Whereas if you handle the obstacle first, now you can talk about prices, you can talk about numbers, you can talk about working together and actually get into things. So make sure before you actually go right into the nitty gritty and you start selling to people, you ask them straight up, like, are you looking to start today? Is there any reason why you couldn't start today? Then if they give you a real objection, now you know that it's just an objection. It's just an excuse. It's not a real thing to where they actually can't start right now. But of course, that begs the question, how do you handle a real objection when it's thrown at you? And the first thing that you need to know is that 90% of objections are basically just lies, they're excuses, they're smoke screens. And look, I want to give you a quick disclaimer. You're going to hear a whole bunch of cute objection handles around the internet, like, oh, if they say this, you should just say this. And it kills the objection every single time. And then it gets people to just want to give you money. And look, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But you as a beginner salesperson, there's no reason for you to want to go out there and start memorizing some objection handles, because all of a sudden people are not going to say what you want, or you're going to freeze, or you're going to forget, or you're going to say the wrong thing. And you're going to make yourself overly nervous. Just like I said, you're going to get in your own way. So really what it just comes down to is learning the fundamental framework that I'm about to give you, which is called DALR. Not like DOLLER, more like DALR. That is the real way to actually spell dollar. And of course, DALR stands for disarm, ask, listen, and then respond. So disarm. For example, let's use a very common objection of, well, maybe not right now. I'm a little bit busy right now and I kind of need to think about it. So you can just disarm them by saying, okay, I understand, it's a big decision, so it makes sense as to why you would want to think about it. Now, instead of just argue selling with them and telling them, no, you actually don't need to sleep on it because trust me, this is definitely for you. That's what most people do. They try to hard sell. Instead, you're just going to act like a normal human being and just say, you know what? True. I can see exactly why you would want to sleep on it and think about it. Next, you want to ask. And ask essentially just means, so what exactly did you want to think about? Was it the price, or did you not really think that this could work for you, or what is it? This is essentially getting you closer to the real objection, because I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, most people who, when they're on the sales call, they'll tell you everything that you want to hear. They'll say, yeah, you know what? This sounds cool. It looks really good. I just want to think about it. Then you get off the call and you will never hear from that person again, because they simply just don't want to tell you no to your face. Okay? They would rather just ghost you because it's just easier to them. So what you're going to do is get to the real reason as to why they don't want to move forward by asking them, is there something specific that you'd like to think about? And then of course you're going to want to listen, but not just listen, you need to actively listen. My friend, on a sales call, you are going to want to listen so much more than you speak. That's why you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, because you're supposed to listen twice as much as you speak, especially on a sales call. And of course, now that you've actually listened and you have a better idea of what the real objection is, then it is time to respond. So like I said, instead of trying to memorize like 25 different objection handles, just memorize 4 letters, DALR. So now before I bring you into the exact script, I want to kind of lay out the framework that I go on every single sales call. So first and foremost, and this is probably the biggest chunk of the sales call. I mean, of course, you have the whole rapport building and asking them how the weather is in their country or wherever they're from, whatever. Okay, that I don't need to teach you guys about that. That's pretty simple. But the biggest part after that is actually getting to know their business, genuinely asking them questions and trying to figure out whether you can help them or not. And guys, when I say whether you can help help them or not. There might be some points where you don't really think that you can help them. For example, if for whatever reason they get on, they're talking about, yeah, man, I really need like a graphic designer, and you're just not a graphic designer, there's no reason to just keep talking about, well, maybe I can do copywriting for you, because that's not what they mentioned. That's not what they need. And also, a lot of the times, beginner copywriters get on the call and they just start pushing their product. They start pushing their copywriting services and being like, yeah, you should totally work with me, without getting a super clear understanding of the person's business. And that's wrong for so many ways, but a perfect analogy is just that a doctor wouldn't prescribe you something if he had no idea what your actual situation is. Imagine you went to go see the doctor and then he's like, he doesn't even give you a checkup and he just gives you a prescription for codeine. And now that you got super clear on exactly what they need to grow their business and why they want to grow their business and how they've tried before, now you want to come up with ways that you as a copywriter can help them achieve their goals and grow their business. And the big key to remember here is to not be presumptuous. Don't presume anything about their business. This is why the information gathering part is so important, because all the information that you gathered, you can now use as ammo. Then, of course, after you actually show them how you can help them and you guys talk about how you could actually provide value to exactly what they're doing, next it's time to actually uncover the obstacles. Let them know, okay, well, is there any reason as to why we couldn't get started today? And then usually they'll say something like, no, there's not a reason, or they'll say, yes, there is a reason. I want to get started on this in a month or 2 or 3 once I'm done with whatever other promo that I'm trying to do. Or they'll just say, well, yeah, but it kind of depends on the price. And then that leads you perfectly into the next part, which is closing the deal and, of course, handling any objections that they might have. So everybody, now I'll actually take you into the word-by-word script that I would use if I was on a sales call. Now, before I actually get into it, I want to show you guys the copy starter kit. As you can see here, we have tons and tons and tons of free resources. Like, I can click down on all these drop-down menus. I mean, look at all these resources. This is just one folder. This is the other folder. And of course, all the scripts and all the things and templates that you see in this very video that I'm recording right now will be inside here. We also have copywriting templates and outreach templates. So literally everything you need to become a full-time copywriter is right here in the free copy starter kit that you can get down in the link in the description. So with all of that being said, now it's time to actually go through and talk about the script that I might use if I was on a sales call. Now, of course, like again, I need to stress, this is not a word for word script, but this is what it may look like. So again, after the rapport building part, after the boring part, you can say, can you tell me a little bit about your business? So this is a super open-ended question. I mean, you might want to narrow it down a little bit. So can you tell me a bit about your business and how you guys are making sales right now, or where your leads are coming from, or what you're doing with email marketing, or things like this, right? And then the client will tell you, okay, well, and this is an example, we're currently focusing on converting as much of our audience as we can. This means maximizing conversions on webinars and promos, okay? So I've heard this. This is something that a lot of my clients have had troubles with. So not troubles, but this is what they want to improve on. So let's say that they have a whole audience of 100,000 subscribers on, 100,000 followers on Instagram, right? 100,000 followers on Instagram, but only about 50 of them have actually bought, or maybe 100 of them have actually bought. Well, instead of focusing on, okay, well, we need to get more followers, they're more of concerned with, we need to make the product as good as possible, and we need to convert as much of the audience as we can as possible by giving them crazy value, and of course, making the webinar and the webinar conversions as perfect as possible, which is where email comes in and copywriting comes in, because copywriting and of course email marketing and also landing page creation are a couple big things that you can do to improve conversion rates on all of those. So, you got a little bit of a copywriting lesson there as well. So, okay, what are the current things you're working on in order to convert as much of your audience as possible? These sorts of questions are very important as well, okay? So you get clear on what their goal is, how they're trying to reach their goal, and what they've tried to do before in the past. The client might say, well, making the webinars better, giving out more value, hyping up the webinars more, and also tweaking our offers and promos. Okay, perfect. And the copywriter, you, might say, have you tried a lot of things around email marketing with your webinars and promos? So this is also important because you want to know, like, if they've had a copywriter before, why they don't have a copywriter right now. If they do have a copywriter right now, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different reasons as to why they could or could not. Sometimes here, they might tell you something like, yeah, I worked with some guys and they said they can make me all this money, but it never worked out, or it just wasn't the right fit, or whatever, right? And then you can dig deep on why exactly, because this gives you a better idea as to what they're trying to avoid and how they've been burned before in the past. And you can find out what they're looking for by understanding what they have not looked for and gotten in the past. So like a lot of them will say, well, I've been burned in the past. People said that they could make me money. I spent a bunch of money on them and then I didn't make any back, right? In this situation, the client says, no, not really. It is something that you think could help, right? Email marketing. And then as a copywriter, you can kind of inform them, right? So this is essentially where is the next section where you guys are talking about how you can help and what exact things that you can implement into their business to help it grow, to help them make more money at what they're trying to do. Now, note that this usually doesn't come down to, hey, you're a copywriter, I want you to come and write copy for my business. 9 times out of 10, it comes down to, hey, I have this problem and I want to make more money. And if I solve this problem, I'll make more money. Can you help with that? And you as a copywriter has to come in and show them how you can help with that. Because here's the thing, 100% of business owners want to make more money. Probably like 5 to 10% of businesses are in desperate need of a copywriter to the point where they're looking for a copywriter, okay? So if you show up and your specialty is being able to make them money instead of just writing copy, then you're gonna close so many more sales, okay? Because really what you're doing is you're coming at it from an angle that is more aligned with what they actually want, rather than just something that they think might work. Like maybe they'll think copywriting might make them more money, but they're not looking to just hire a copywriter just to write their copy and get it done. They would only hire a copywriter if that copywriter had the skill to make them more money, which is what you have and what you have to show them. So in this example, well, email marketing is a great way to build a relationship with people and have them get notified when you're going live, right? So a big thing with webinars, is another little marketing lesson, is that in order to get as many conversions as possible, as many sales, you need as many people on the webinar as possible. You know, it kind of goes without saying, but it's true. And email is a huge way that you can do that because you can hype up the webinar, you can hype everything up, tell everybody how great it's going to be. So it's crucial for nurturing hype and also maximizing live viewers, thus increasing your overall audience conversion, like you said you were working on, right? And exactly, so we want to use the exact phrases and words that they use, okay? And this is what I was talking about when I said you want to ask them a lot of questions so that you get a lot of ammo, because this is something we can use to show them exactly how we can do what they said. Now, the client says, that's true, I'd be willing to give it a shot. What does your offer look like? Okay, great. And the copywriter might say, well, since, like you said, you're not doing much with email right now, I say we'd start simple with some reusable emails and automations, then also build some nurture emails and some promo emails. That sound like something you'd be open to? Boom. Okay, so when you're on sales calls, you're usually going to want to start small, okay? Start small unless it's like a referral client and they're like, yeah, I want to get you on retainer right now and just do everything, and like they know you from the past. But if they're still pretty skeptical about you, which they usually are, especially if they came from outreach, you're going to want to just give them a low risk offer. You're going to want to be like, okay, well, let's start small. Let's start with a few emails. Let's start with an email sequence. Let's start with an automation. And then you tell me the quality of the work, how many sales I've gotten you. And then of course we can move on from there. Client says, yeah, sure. You say, okay, great. Is it cool that we start now, or is there anything stopping us from moving forward? Or can I simply start setting it up today? Client says, yeah, we can set it up today. What's your price? Boom. Okay. Again, leads you into the next part. Copywriter says, okay, now this is important. So my rates are usually $150 per email. And then setting up the automation too would be a whole another fee. But since we're building a bunch of services together, I'd say starting out with something small like $700 would be fair, just to kind of bundle it all up and together. Usually we just split this into 2 payments, half before and half after. And then this is important. This is important. Every good salesperson in the world does this, okay? You shut up. You shut up. You say the price and then you stop talking. A lot of the times, and this will absolutely kill you on a sales call, people will say the price and then they'll start rambling on and justifying the price and talking about random stuff like nobody cares, okay? The thing is, when you say the price, you don't want them to sit there and be able to think of a way to get off the call or a way to give you an objection or a way to give you an obstacle or any of this, okay? You want their God's honest, true opinion on what the price is. And the only way you're gonna get that is if you shut up, okay? One way that I've seen, I actually saw my mentor do this, it was pretty funny, but I knew the trick. So whenever we were on the call and he says the price, and then he just takes a sip of his water, right? So he takes his water and he starts drinking it. So he stops talking. And then I knew exactly what he was doing. So then I stopped talking. We were at this really funny standoff. But you need to just stop talking. And then they'll say something like, yeah, I don't know. That seems like a little bit too much, right? Or they'll say, yeah, I mean, we could try that if you're really sure that it could work. And then you just go ahead and give them a little bit more confidence that you can do what you're saying you can do. Or they'll just say, yeah, sure, whatever sounds good, if they're, super confident that you can actually do the job. And that's absolutely it. That's all you need. That's what a sales call usually looks like. No crazy sales tactics. You just chill, hang out with the business owner, ask them a few questions, and then you go in for the close. And of course, just like I said, you can actually download this script and many, many, many others inside of the free copy starter kit down below in the description. That is it for today, everybody. And of course, I will see you guys on the next one. Go out there and close some clients. Peace.